This is next in our continuing series of club coaching sessions. And I have to say I'm been pretty happy with the content that we've had for each session. I only wish more people could be here and experience it. Hopefully people are accessing the materials and the saved video that we have out on the district website. I'm trying to promote this every 2 weeks with reminders to our club presidents and those of you that have agreed to serve as coaches for this experience here. So we'll see how it goes. But today's session is on Speechcraft, and we're really fortunate to have Dick Hawley as our presenter. So Dick's a member of the Stevens Point Toastmasters, a long time. You sent it to me, Dick, but I forgot how many, 35 maybe, somewhere in that vicinity?
Little over 40 years.
Little over 40 years at Stevens Point Toastmasters. That's quite very impressive. He served in district leadership roles up to district governor, and he's one of only a handful of individuals from District 35 to have served as international director on the board of directors of Toastmasters. And his club has been putting on Speechcraft for many years, and I know they have the format, everything from the promotion to the conducting to the follow-up for Speechcraft, just down to a science. So I know he's got a lot of great information for us today. So with that, I'd like to welcome Dick Hawley.
Oh, thank you, Keith. We begin by thanking all of you that showed up, giving up the last 5-6 minutes of the Badger game to learn a little bit more about Speechcraft. One of the benefits to me, the number one benefit of Speechcraft, when you're a single digit club or a low member club and you're trying to ask people to join Toastmasters, that can be very difficult. People are cutting back on organizations they belong to. They don't want to join another organization. They already have, their lives are too busy. So they're already automatically saying no before you finish your invitation. It's really hard to get people to join another organization, but they will go to seminars. There's less of a commitment. There is less of a long-term commitment. And that's the benefit of Speechcraft. And it's a flexible program that it can be 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. You can go up to 8. I've never been involved in one with 8. It's always 4 or 5 or 6 classes, but people will commit to that. The beauty of Speechcraft is once they're in it, there's no difference between Speechcraft and Toastmasters. You go, I've said this numerous times, there were 2 meeting rooms right next to each other. One was running Speechcraft, one was running Toastmasters. You went into the wrong room. You would not know you were in the wrong room until about halfway through the program. There was absolutely no difference in the format and the rules at the meeting. And other people have talked about Speechcraft that, I'm a single digit club. We only have a few members. There's no way we can put on a Speechcraft. If you run a Speechcraft, my recommended way to run it is to run it on this. Well, we'll be meeting in person now. I would run it at the same place your club meets at, the same time your club meets at, and the same day your club meets at, because if they can attend these Speechcraft classes, these sessions, once they graduate, that time and date and place works for them. And that helps building your membership. And these are candidates for membership in your club that are comfortable with that time and day and area that you're meeting. In the last 18 months, Speechcraft has changed somewhat. For 30 some years, we at Sentry, 35 years, we've been running Speechcraft with this manual. Not this exact one, there's been different additions, but it's been a manual that we've given to each participant for them to go through and use as a tool for the Speechcraft program. There's an icebreaker in there. There's the constructing your speech, working with gestures, all the type of objectives we learn in Toastmasters. They were in here. Those objectives were in there. Last February, the new online Speechcraft portal opened up at Toastmasters International, and you no longer use this manual. Speechcrafters, when they sign up for Speechcraft, the coordinator will sign them up at Toastmasters International, and they will get an email from TI, just like you would if you were a brand new member in Pathways. Welcome to Toastmasters. You're welcome to Speechcraft. You need to sign into Toastmasters International, and all the material about Speechcraft, the tutorials and videos and materials and advice on how to give presentation is from TI International. That's the good part. The good part is it's exactly like Pathways. The bad part is it's exactly like Pathways. How we all struggled getting into the Pathways program with years and years of being ambassadors, helping us try to understand it. All these Speechcrafters now, not only do they need the technical aspect of getting into that portal of Speechcraft and go here and hit this tab, but all the terms are foreign to them that we have in Toastmasters. So I'll go into that a little bit. How do you promote it once you decide you're going to have a Speechcraft? If Keith, you could show that first slide I have. This is the registration we put together, and I've shared with other clubs that have used a variation on this registration form.
Are you guys seeing that?
Not yet.
Not sure why it's not. Share screen.
Well, Keith's working on it. What it is a registration form, but it's also there it is. I'll read some of the stuff that's on there that you can see here that it talks about. It's a virtual Speechcraft that we're going through right now. And, Speechcraft is a program to develop your presentation skills. Experienced Toastmasters present the fundamentals of public speaking in a relaxed, enjoyable atmosphere, so they feel comfortable what it's like. The program is conducted in a non-threatening workshop atmosphere, and we charge $25 for the 6 sessions. And we talk about when it's going to meet, where it's, now it's virtually, but usually where it's going to meet. And the last sentence is the poll it has is the benefits of Speechcraft are numerous. Perhaps you're looking for a new individual development opportunity for 2022. Perhaps you have a large meeting or a presentation coming up and you'd like some practice or improvement. You will learn to speak extemporaneously, which is excellent practice for real life situations. You will discover your hidden talents and learn more about the other participants. So that's the form we get to email to individuals or have posted in various places that promotes the Speechcrafts and gives them a feel for what's going to happen. With the new Speechcraft portal, I had talked about the negative of it, but the positive is once you sign up for Speechcraft at Toastmasters International and pay that $50 for 5 individuals to go through Speechcraft, you have access to a lot of promotional material to go beyond this here. And if you could put that next slide up, this is just an example of what I did when I promoted this last Speechcraft. I attach this to this next slide, which is one of the flyers or handouts you can just pull right, the coordinator can pull out of the material that the coordinator receives when they sign up for Speechcraft. There's a lot of material in there for the coordinator. So, if any club does plan on doing Speechcraft, I wouldn't wait till you had a bunch of people signed up. I would, if your club has that money, sign up for one group of five individuals for Speechcraft, and you'll have the materials to promote it. Go see a little bit more of the top of it, Keith. This is the piece that I gave out to various businesses that said, telling their company they can raise their speaking skills and raise the success of their employees. And it gives a little background, and then the registration form goes into specifics. But this is the general overview from TI for businesses and why Speechcraft would be a tool they could use, a cost-effective tool to help develop their employees at $25 a shot. I mean, their companies are paying hundreds of dollars for their employees for their development. So those are two of the tools you can use to promote it, and the combination of the two of them gives the broad overview and then the specifics of the program you're presenting. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about, Keith had talked about the materials we have put together to help promote Toastmasters. That portal at TI really focuses a lot on the presentation, all the tools on gestures and all that type of stuff, but it doesn't give in-depth any information about the other roles at the meeting. The general evaluator, the topic master, grammarian, icon, all these terms that are really foreign to somebody just new coming into Speechcraft or Toastmasters, and they don't have a feel for why do you have these, and what's the responsibility, and what skill do I gain by taking on one of these roles, and what's the benefit of having that role in a meeting. We put together, the next slide, Keith, would be the Speechcraft Participants Handbook. And it's, let's see how many pages. 18 pages. And this was put together, I don't know, 1998 or something. You can tell by the graphics, it's a bit dated. But this is the nuts and bolts of Toastmaster meeting, and we won't go through all the pages of it, just this front page, but that it has everything from how to think of a title for your presentation. There's all the table of contents. It describes every role. If you're called upon to be a counter, what's your responsibility? If you're timer, what do you do as timer? If you're table topics master, how do you conduct that role? The beauty of this handbook is that when you run your Speechcraft, you not only assign them speeches, but you assign them roles in the meetings. Two purposes of that. First off, if you assign them other roles, you need less help in your Speechcraft because they're fulfilling the roles, and you don't need all the help to put on these meetings for 4 or 5, 6 weeks. And two, they start to enjoy the Toastmaster experience, taking on other roles, and they're more likely to join Toastmasters after the completion of the Speechcraft, because they say, well, I'll come to a Toastmaster meeting and I'll be a counter for that meeting, so my odds don't get count, or they'll say I'll be table topics master because then I don't get called on. After a person graduates from Speechcraft, they're at the level of a regular new member joining Toastmasters for 6 weeks or 6 months of being in Toastmasters, because once you graduate Speechcraft, you can take on the role of general evaluator or Toastmaster. We've run Speechcraft where we've done that at the end of the meeting, where they've taken over the entire section of the meeting. And again, the beauty of that, you don't need a lot of volunteers. So that participants handbook is is very valuable to show the other aspects of the Toastmaster program. And plus it talks about how to get over nervousness and put a title to your speech, and talks about an introduction for your speech. The last slide I have here is a Speechcraft that Julius sees, and I see he's in at the meeting here. Julius and I put this Speechcraft on last year about this time. He was working at Carey Corporation in Carey Company in Beloit, and they were trying to, that one I shouldn't have sent you.
Oh, this is not the right one?
Yeah, that's not the one I want. You can skip that one. I won't use it.
Okay.
I just want everyone to know that there is a coordinator guide I could email you that's like a 40-page document, way too much information, but it's better to have too much information and not enough. So maybe that's the reason I put it in there, that will help you as a coordinator, but there's a lot of material in there. This is the meeting that we put on at Carey. And you'll see me as coordinator and JT as Toastmaster. And I'll set it up a little bit. JT had called me and we had talked about, he wanted to start a club at Carey, and they had 3 or 4 people interested, but thought Speechcraft might be a good way to get some more people into the fold and maybe charter a Toastmaster club. So he sent out the invitation to this, and hopefully to get a class together. And 20 people signed up at Carey. So JT called, says, now what do we do? You can't run 20. And I says, okay, well, let's try running, they're running their classes at 3:30 on for Wednesday or Thursday. I says, well, we're going to have to, how about we set up another meeting, say at 11 o'clock or so, or he mentioned 11 o'clock. So for 5 straight weeks, once a week, we had 2 meetings, one at 11 and one at 3:30, and ran 10 people through each class. And this is a good example. I forget, this is maybe the 4th meeting or something like that. You'll see, this is another important thing when you're running Speechcraft. Don't put in word of the day, don't have joke master, don't have just the basic roles in Toastmasters. Other roles are great for a club meeting. They add variety and add a lot to a meeting, but they're struggling enough with all the other roles that they have that are foreign to them. Don't add, we have a grammarian here, but we didn't have a word of the day. So they're struggling to put together their icebreakers. They don't want to worry about trying to put that word of the day in. We try to make it easy as possible. But you can tell by this agenda, it was 4, I think it was 4 speakers, 4 evaluators, 4 of them doing their icebreakers. It was probably the 4th section, I think, because all the evaluators were Speechcrafters. The topic master was a Speechcrafter. And down on the bottom, the counter was a Speechcrafter. When JT and I ran that, the demonstration meeting, I think he had 3, maybe 4 helpers. The second meeting, I think he maybe had 2 or 3 more helpers. But the 3rd, 4th, and 5th meetings, JT and I ran all those just ourselves, just the 2 of us, because we had trained these people, or they had this material in the participant's handbook to know how to do these roles. And all JT was Toastmaster for every meeting. I was general evaluator for every meeting. And we ran 20 people through Speechcraft. And then in June of that year, this was in May, I think, April, they chartered a club at Carey. And after that, JT has now run we completed another one at Beloit with another company, ran it the same way. He had, the 3 or 4 or 5 people from his Walworth County Toastmaster group, who was a single-digit club, ran it for another group. And now he just had sent me an email that he's got another company that wants to have another Speechcraft in the Beloit area. But how we handled that is I handled the nuts and bolts of the roles and assigning roles. JT handled the TI format, all the work of as coordinator, official coordinator with TI on the meeting. And JT, if you're still on, could you share what your experience was like on the portal aspect, and also share the focus participants gave towards the TI portal, and how much focus they gave on that, and how much focus they gave to the participants handbook?
Oh, sure. Just a couple of things. How much time, and do you want me to show you the portal? I still have access to it.
No, I don't need you to show it. I just wanted your thoughts on, how much they use the portal, and maybe how much work it was for you to handle that type of thing.
Sure. Not a lot of work, only at the initial to get people registered. Yeah, obviously I purchased the packages, or you had to have $50 for a portal access for 5 participants. We had multiple, so I would have multiple access. So I would need their email address to set up the portal. So as Dick had said, as long as I had their name and their email address, then I would put that into the portal. They would get an automated email saying, here's your access, and then they would be off and running. Now, in terms of how the usage was, I would say most people registered, and maybe I should have sold it more, because some people put in their information, and I would then go in at the kind of the tail end of the training and mark their assignments or their projects completed. And then once that was completed, I was able to print a certificate, and then I emailed that to the participant as kind of a summary saying, thank you for participating in Speechcraft. We hope you have found it useful, challenging, fun. By the way, you're invited to our next Toastmaster meeting at such and such time. Here's your certificate, and then they're off and running. So I've used it a couple times, and I really really need to push myself for the next time to really get into it more, because there are formats out there that it's set up for, you can use a number of projects. So I had to just select, okay, this is the icebreaker. It was spelled out very well, but beyond that is like speech 1, 2, 3 or something like that. So long response to your question. We kind of used it at the tail end, very simple to set up. And but I do think at the very end, I think people appreciated it. And since at least for Walworth County Toastmasters, it was we had a company send 8 people, and it was kind of the proof of their attendance and also recognition.
Yeah, but I think part of the success, with the handbook, I think if it wasn't for the handbook, I think they would have struggled more, where you and I were running the whole meeting. If it hadn't been for the handbook, I think they would have needed a lot more mentoring, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. They did ask questions about, what does a table topics master do? And I do think that that was some very good background for them. Just one note, as a coordinator, using the Speechcraft portal, I looked at instructions and so forth, and I was kind of like, doesn't really make 100% sense to me. So I searched YouTube, and I found a video, and I'm a visual learner. So the individual said, this is how you do it. And it showed you how to mark projects completed and print the certificate. Now, maybe that exists somewhere out in the Toastmaster portal, but I didn't really find that I think they had information, but I really like video. Here's what you're seeing. Here's what I'm saying. Here's what you're seeing. And I can share.
Yeah, that would be good. I'd like to, because a lot of them don't know what happens if they become coordinator. What do they see when they hit the portal?
Mm-hmm. But it's overall good. I think as Dick was saying, it shows the participants, hey, Toastmasters is 21st century. It's state of the art. We're using this online portal. It really supports it, though. It's a very good lead into pathways. This is the face of Toastmasters. We're not just talking and giving speeches. Hey, look, there's resources available. There's backup. This is a professional, world-class program.
Yeah, and one of the things how we sold it at the end is the difference between Speechcraft and Toastmasters. First off, Speechcraft is a boot camp. It's 5 consecutive weeks, and they called me the sergeant because I was the drill master. At the end of the meeting, I said, okay, this is who's giving icebreaker, this is who evaluating, this is who's table topics. I made assignments. So at the end of it, I said, now if you join Toastmasters, first off, everyone isn't on the same path like you are in Speechcraft. Each one of you are doing exactly the same thing in your path. Once you join Toastmasters, pathway is an individualized program and allows you to get out of Toastmasters the skills you were looking for. Plus, it's at your own speed. Nobody tells you that you have to speak. You do it at your own speed, and it's once every 2 weeks. So it's a big selling point that it's great. You gain some confidence during Speechcraft, but if you don't join Toastmasters, 6 months from now, you're going to be back to where you are before you went through Speechcraft. So it's a good selling point. We're also running a Speechcraft for the refugee community in Milwaukee right now. And Kofi, did I see you online here? Could you share some thoughts on the program? Sir. Yeah, we're running together.
All right, yes. So we have the refugee community, and obviously it's a different population. And when I say different in terms of the culture, in terms of the language, just getting used to United States to begin with, employment, making connections, getting settled in the community. And so the approach for this group had to be a bit different. The 1 hour general time that typically you could use for Speechcraft, we had to kind of extend it, mostly because we had to go over different roles, kind of slow down. The language is a barrier. However, the enthusiasm to learn, the desire to want to be engaged, was very much great. And so this group, I think by the second week or the third week, when we asked them, if anybody would like to take on the roles for the upcoming week to start giving speeches, we did have participants. By the following week, we had someone running Toastmaster, Table Topics Master. And so this past week, Friday, it was pretty smooth. It was great. And so, yeah, to add to what Dick is saying, it is a good selling point for your club because they get to see in sort of an abbreviated version of what Toastmasters is like. But you also have the chance to really go in, directly some selling points in public speaking, some tips and how to improve their leadership skills, how to improve their public speaking skills. You get to go directly, on what Toastmasters is about. Whereas if they were to start off in your club, there might not be anybody giving speeches. It might not be as engaging as you would have liked it at that very point when someone visited your club. But for Speechcraft, they get to see, speaking, they get to see evaluation, they get to see more of everything that Toastmasters is about in a short form. At this point, I'll just give it back to Dick, and if anybody has any specific questions, I'll be happy to answer it.
Yeah, thank you for that, Kofi. It's great. That Speechcraft is great because you see people just been here in the United States, some for just a couple years, and experiencing life here in the United States and English as a second language, but are challenging themselves to be leaders in their community, and are doing an excellent job and grabbing hold of the various roles of Toastmasters. And Kofi mentioned the 1 hour format. Those meetings that we ran there, they were always done within an hour. They never ran over, and we'd have 4 speakers, 4 evaluators, table topics, and all the other roles, plus assignments at the end of the meeting, and every meeting ended in less than an hour. We not only teach them the art of communication, but the art of running an effective meeting for people that are in business. So it solves a lot of problems that people have in business, overcoming their fear of presenting and the ability to put on effective meetings. And I thought the Speechcraft goes a long way to helping that. So does anyone have any questions for JT or Kofi or me? Keith, I saw your hand raised.
Oh yeah, I've got a question. So yeah, sure. Well, not that this is a bashful crowd, right? We've got plenty of hands up already. So my first question is a number of the examples that you cited, and they were great examples. It's like a predefined audience. All right, so this company wants to do something. This company called us in, or we outreach to refugee community. What if, and I'm sure you must have this experience at Stephen's Point, because you've been running it for so many years. If you don't have a specific target in mind, but you'd like to try this, how would one go about letting people know that we're putting on this program?
Yeah, there's the online face, and I haven't used that at all. We're just learning how to use Facebook and that type of thing. It wasn't effective. What we had is our members promoted, and it's the Sentry Toastmasters, so Sentry posted it there, and it just happens this last Speechcraft we had 5 participants, and they were all from Sentry. One was actually from Madison, that was part of it for our Madison office, but the previous one had people from our Sentry club isn't a closed club, it's an open club, so we have people from other businesses, and each one of our members of our Sentry club had it posted at their business. So that we had Delta Dental post it, we had a number of other businesses post it, so we had other companies that viewed it. The other thing I'd suggest is dropping this promotional thing off with the registration form at companies, asking them to forward it to their human resources department. And the name, and at the bottom, the registration had my name and email if they had questions. So this is something that you'd ask them to, if it's a bigger company, they'll not only have a human resource, but they'll have an education department, but dropping it off at various businesses. And hopefully they'll look at it and say, this is something we can look into, and might email if they have further questions.
Okay, good, thanks. All right, Yuri had his hand up real quick, so let's go to him.
Okay.
Yes, this question is for Dick, Coffee, and JT. It sounds like you had put on plenty of Speechcrafts, which is excellent to hear. What has been your retention rate of the individuals who went for Speechcraft and then joined Toastmasters compared? Think of your recent Speechcraft, and maybe you can share how many of those members are still with the club, or how many members do you believe will remain with the club a year from now?
Okay, that's an excellent question, Yuri. And the success rate has dropped considerably since we went to virtual, because when we run Speechcraft, the graduation in person previous years, our hit ratio has anywhere been from 30 to 50% of the people that graduate from Speechcraft end up joining the club, because at the final Speechcraft, we have them tell them to invite their bosses, invite their family. We'd have the graduation ceremony, their final speech, and then we have pizza. We'd have a social afterwards. And that's where you could individually talk to people, and rather than trying to sell the program in a big group, here one-on-one, you can discuss with them what their personal objections are and how we as a Toastmaster club would work around that they don't have time for it now. They don't have time to put speeches together. Well, just join Toastmasters. You enjoyed Speechcraft, you'll enjoy Toastmasters, whether you're getting a speech or not. You personally twist their arms, so to speak, but really be able to sell Toastmasters in a more personal way now that we'll be meeting virtually again. Our rate since we went virtual has not been real successful on getting them to join, but once they join, they've stayed in. Last spring, our Sentry one, even though it was virtual, we had 3 of the 10 members join, and all 3 became officers that they graduated in May, and then in July became officers with the club. So those that join saw the development and see their development in themselves in these 5 short weeks and want to continue that development. But I think it'll be much better once we meet in person, and there's more of a bonding between the Toastmasters. The friendships develop more when it's in a in-person environment.
All right, very good. How about Chris? You've got your hand up, Chris Poole.
Yes, I have 2 questions. Anyone can answer. Dick, you mentioned that everyone takes the same path in Speechcraft. Which path?
Yeah,
or is it just one general?
Yeah, it's almost like the book, but it's online. They have at the TI portal, they'll say, okay, here's your, and it's just like pathways. They take an assessment before their icebreaker, then they give their icebreaker, and then they take the assessment afterwards. It's almost exactly like pathways at the TI portal. That's if they go through the portal. Most of the time, a lot of them don't. We say, okay, the next objective, JT looked it up what the next objective was, and that's what we told them. And then we were able to print off the evaluation forms for the speech crafters when they evaluate. So they have forms, and we send them the forms.
Okay. All right. And then the other question, the agenda that you use, is that one that was available in the portal for this program or one you created?
JT created. I do not suggest, unless you're running a 1 or 2 member Speechcraft, the agendas that they recommend at TI are, I say, presented. They want a lot of presentations by the Toastmasters to the participants, all kinds of topics on how to pick a topic or how to work on gestures, or how to it's all kinds of instructional speeches. And that's okay if you only have 2, 3, 4, 5. But our focus when I've run Speechcraft is I don't want Toastmasters up there giving speeches. I want Speechcrafters up there giving speeches. I want them doing the roles. So a lot of their sample agendas, and it's so much easier if your club uses your club agenda and just put Speechcrafters in there. And you may have to adjust it. But one of the things I've seen, and there are people that disagree with me in Toastmasters International throughout the world and even in District 35, but my recommended agenda, and I think this is the official Toastmasters International agenda, is the Toastmaster starts the meeting, and then I don't care whether table topics comes next or speeches come next, but in Speechcraft, I recommend the speeches come first and then do table topics, because in the table topics, then you can call on the speakers for impromptu questions. You don't want to have table topics and call on these people brand new. They're concentrating on their speech and so
Sure.
nervous, and then you're asking them questions in Speechcraft. But once they're done with the speech, they're learning how to give presentations, and then they can also learn how to think on their feet. So I recommend the speeches, then table topics. And then the second half of the meeting, the general evaluator comes on and has that team that provide feedback to the first half of the team. You should not have a counter, and that's why I don't like, word of the day is okay for a Toastmaster meeting, but I don't want the grammarian announced at the fun part of the meeting. It takes up a couple of minutes to work on a word of the day. All it is the generally evaluator comes on, calls on the evaluators, calls on the counter, calls on the grammarian, and calls on the timer, and then gives them a general evaluation of the whole meeting. That's the standard format. And
Okay.
I've seen variations, especially in my role as international director, where the general evaluator is the last person introduced at the meeting, that the Toastmaster called on everybody else in the meeting, and the general evaluator gave the general evaluation of the meeting. They should be in charge of the second half of the meeting. So that's my thoughts, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I've done about a dozen of these, and use kind of a hybrid approach to what you described, where I've always had one short instructional education session,
Sure.
just 5 to 7 minutes by a Toastmaster on a topic. So think of it kind of like speech class, right? So we're teaching them something, but then 2, 3, 4 multiple people speaking. Then I agree wholeheartedly. The speech crafters should be speaking. It's all about getting the practice in an intense format.
Yeah, Kofi mentioned it. His is a little bit different because we have to give them a little more instruction, and so that's why the meetings are an hour and a half. But again, JT's group, it was an hour meeting. Kofi, do you have any additional thoughts on the topics we've talked at either JT or Kofi?
Yes. So really quick for everybody. I originally was planning on using the portal, and there's a lot of great information materials on the portal. And actually, Dick, I used the agenda that we use. I pulled it from the portal and just thought about the group and figured out the best way that would help. So for anybody, you can use your club's agenda, but just think about the group that you have and how helpful it will be, based on their interaction, their reaction, the goals for everybody, and then use that. If you come online too and you look at the portal, you can look at the structure. And if it works for you in that structure, that is great. The portal itself, I noticed that even among our speech crafters for this population, most of them, I think the handbook, like the Word document that Dick shared, worked perfectly for them. Like that was enough. I also had some that were a bit more advanced in their communication that wanted to be able to self-select the videos and watch them. So I will say introduce both of them, to your audience, because there is really a lot of material on the portal, as far as learning, the assessments, the evaluation sheets, the different videos and modules, which will be very helpful if someone doesn't really want to deal with papers and want to pull it up on their phone or on a laptop. So just introduce both of them to them. I have both of them pulled up on my screen because I pulled myself as a speech crafter just to see what the dashboards and the learning look like. And then also as a speech coordinator, Speechcraft coordinator. And so I would say, try both, and you'll find relevant material in both. And if they prefer to just use a document to make it easy for them, great. But there is also a lot of videos and modules online that could be very helpful.
Okay, thank you. Susan, I see you're online here. You were involved in a Speechcraft, and I share with people that if you run a Speechcraft, don't cancel it. If you only have one person signed up for Speechcraft, it's beneficial for that person and for your club to run it. Would you care to comment?
Well, it was, Dick is an expert. We had we weren't using the portal at that point. We were just using his Sentry Toastmasters materials. Those things went, we only had one person. She is now an officer and is an absolutely incredible member. So we're very happy, and we keep getting new members. We're about ready to have to probably do a Speechcraft and put us way up there. But we were very happy with just having the one person. It was really a good review for all of us, Dick, I think, just to put it together that way. And because I belong to a club that has 2-hour meetings where we have all that stuff in there, and we've done Speechcraft with all of it, which is interesting, but I like the quick, slick way that this worked out for us. So I was very happy with it.
Yeah, that's a good example of, even if only one is, you promote it and only 1 or 2 people sign up, run it, because it's very motivating to the members, and a good reminder of sometimes clubs continuously meet and it starts going off in a different direction, and this kind of refocuses everyone. And one of the reasons I've been Toastmasters for 40 years is to hear icebreakers, and there's no better way to hear icebreakers than to have a Speechcraft. That's you're meeting new people, and it's very motivational. It can be a lot of work, but you twice as much work, but you get twice as much benefit from it, because it's very motivational and you get experience. They come out of Speechcraft so knowledgeable, and they can take on any role. And like you said, Susan, they want to be an officer. They see the leadership track also.
Right. Well, I think one of the things that was helpful for me too is I was a new member of that club, and the quick, concise things that we did helped me learn a lot more about the rest of the members of the club as well, because they were getting right into the material right along with our one Speechcrafter. So it was very excellent. Now I'm interested to see what the portal's like, because we've not used that yet. So
Okay.
I think I saw Tom Carlson had his hand up for earlier. Yeah, Tom.
A couple of questions. What is the ideal range for the number of people in a Speechcraft?
If you can get to 10, I wouldn't go over 10. We still, what we did with Carrie, we had 10 in each one, and we're still able to run 4 or 5 speeches each meeting and still finish within the hour. I would, it's a struggle to get to 11 or 12, but like Susan said, for their club, we did it with 1 person, but anywhere from 1 to 10.
In a 6-course presentation with 8 or 10 members, would each member give only 1 speech, or would they have a chance to give 2?
In Sentry, we do 6 weeks. Every member is required to give at least either 2 speeches and a major role, Toastmaster, or general evaluator plus evaluate. So in 6 weeks, they give 2 speeches, a major role at a meeting, and they evaluate in the 6 weeks. 5, you can do it in 5 also.
Last question. I've had an idea, but I haven't employed it yet. Would be to take a page from the Dale Carnegie program, where they often are sponsored by the local Chamber of Commerce.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be a good way for a Speechcraft to be promoted?
To me, taking this material and speaking to someone at the chamber, that this is a program that we are offering to your members to a cost-effective way to help develop that, and ask the chamber to market it to their members, Tom, is, to me, a great way to get it out in the community. I think that's an excellent idea.
Thank you.
And even if the chamber might sponsor it. And again, if you get I had talked about making it the same day and time as your club. You make it a company that said, we'd like this idea, but we would like it at 4:30 at our building, or we'd like it at noon. Don't turn it down. You'll ask the other clubs in the area, or ask your division or area director to help you out on that, because 1, it may lead to some members, or 2, it may lead to another club in the area. So you'll have area directors and division directors say, yeah, we want to help. We'd like to charter, it might lead to a club. So don't shy away from something because they requested on a different time and date than what your club meets. Because once they graduate, they may not, all of them can make your club meeting, but there may be other clubs that they could join in the area, and you're still bringing Toastmasters into the organization.
One final question and I'll quit. What's your preference? Face-to-face meeting, a virtual meeting, or a hybrid?
Absolutely, 100% face-to-face. I want to get back to that, but I've been against hybrid meetings, but our club is going to have to go to that. We had some people join during the last 2 years that 3 of them that would drop the club if we just went to in person, and they're very valuable members. So our first hybrid meeting is a week from now, and we're trying to work all plans to have our first hybrid meeting, and we're gonna go to that and kind of embrace it. Sentry's world, throughout the United States. We have offices in Scottsdale and other areas. We'll now promote our club to those offices, and maybe hopefully that'll help with membership, but it'll be a learning curve during the hybrid. Thank you for those questions, Tom.
Okay.
I have one other quick thought before we go to someone else, before I forget. One of the things I forgot to mention, that when Speechcrafters move from Speechcraft to Toastmasters, every speech they give in Speechcraft qualifies as a speech in pathways. So if they are a Sentry group that gave 3 speeches in Speechcraft, when they joined the club, they gave 1 more speech at the club back then and ended up completing level 1.
Okay.
Excellent.
Keith?
Yeah, Yuri, is your hand still up from your first question, or do you have another one?
I have another one. I see we have about 8 minutes. I actually thought of several, but I'll kind of pick one, and maybe it'll kind of lead to additional comments. Coffee, this is a question kind of for maybe you can answer first, since it's something that it was what you said was sounding interesting to me. It sounds like you were able to offer the Speechcraft to the refugee group because it's something connected to where you work. Is that correct? Or what led you? How did that happen? That connection?
All right, so I believe those connections were actually made through Jennifer. I just let with Dick as far as coordinating it together, and I think Jennifer can speak later on about how he met the liaisons for the refugee group. But I think generally, I think about meeting any group as a marketing opportunity. So like I used to work for the state, for example. I can just see going to the director and saying, hey, there's value in this particular type of staff. If they, because of the work that they do, if they were part of a program like Toastmasters that can help them, with the way that they facilitate meetings, or the way they can build them up in a certain way. And then if the director says, yep, all right, let's give it a chance, they will have to pay for agree to pay for the bundle, or give permission for us to proceed with their particular group. But I'll just let Jennifer talk about how she connected with this specific group and what may have led to me getting involved to begin with. So Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you very much. I could talk for hours and hours, but I think the quick answer to that one is, yeah, it's during my work. I was actually doing research and looking at the refugee community, looking at the healthcare needs. And one of the things that kept coming up in my research is advocacy and the lack of a voice. And ding, I was like, Toastmasters, I even talked about that in the trio meeting. And then we had conversations and one thing led to the other. But what was interesting is like right now we are about Coffee's group, Coffee and Dick, this Friday is going to be their last one. And it became very clear to us because the vision I had is that let's see if we can launch a club. That realized it's not feasible. So you get some answers such as, hey, what's the next steps? But having the idea of transitioning them from the Speechcraft to the community becomes very, very important. Back to you, Dick.
Thank you, Jennifer.
The other question I kind of thought of is, I just finished with helping with Speechcraft for all my clubs. And this club had the 6-week course. And from my memory, we have 5 Speechcrafters. And every single meeting, to my memory, each of those Speechcrafters, when they were able to attend, was given a speech based on the information learning from that week's, which made meetings a little bit longer. From what I heard today, it sounds like it's possible to, even with 10 Speechcrafters, it's possible to have only 2 speakers at one meeting, which will probably mean that if there are 6 topics during a Speechcraft session, only 2 or 3 of them are actually used to give a speech. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, in Speechcraft, it's so flexible. You could, whatever way you run it is fine. There's no right way or wrong way to run a Speechcraft. And what I suggest is what the club is comfortable with. Even my recommendation, don't use, Quizmaster or all those roles. If your club decides to use those, fine. It's not a bad thing. It's just from our experience, this is the way we run it. But however you decide, if you want to run a 4-week Speechcraft and have them one demonstration meeting and all the other 3 meetings, they give speeches every week, that's okay. Or if you run 5 weeks and have them be an evaluator for one meeting or to do table topics, however a club wants to do it. What I do is match that with not doing it at all. So whatever, even if it's, however you run it is the right way. There's no wrong way to run Speechcraft. It's so flexible. It's all it is introducing people to Toastmasters to give them a taste of the organization, hopefully for them to see the value of the organization and to join. And how the club does that is immaterial. It's just exposing them, and with a seminar or workshop format like this, they're more likely to sign up than having them join the organization. You sell the product to them and they see it's a good product and they'll buy it. They tend not to buy a product if they don't understand it. Speechcraft allows them to understand Toastmasters.
Right. Well, that's great. Thanks everyone for attending. We're closing in on the last couple minutes here before the top of the hour. So again, I
just saw post Wisconsin lost.
Yeah. So we can go cry in our beers later. But thanks everyone for coming today. For me personally, this has been a fantastic session, even though I've conducted a number of Speechcraft sessions myself. I learned some things that I'd love to try because as Dick said, there's no wrong way to do it. So there's been a variety of experiences here, and I think that exchange has been fantastic. So thanks Dick, and also JT and Kofi for your contributions as well. Our next topic, our next date is April 3rd, and our topic is, just let me confirm here, is hybrid meetings.
Oh, I'm coming to that one. I need
Tom, are you still good for that one? You're on mute. Tom Carlson. Yeah, you're still on mute, Tom. I see him talking. I hope that means yeah.
I'm excited.
Yes, good. Good. If not, then we'd be doing a quick pivot here, but that's great. So, right. So everyone be back here on April 3rd. Anything you can do to spread the word, as I mentioned at the top of this session, you know, I do continue to send this out to the club presidents and of course all the other coaches here. Love to get even more people participating. I in particular am looking forward to learning more about hybrid meetings as both of the clubs that I'm a member of are beginning to experiment with that now, and there's a lot that we can learn. So I'm really looking forward to that next session on April 3. Thanks everyone for your attendance tonight. Have a good rest of the evening and see you back soon.
Thanks for
Thank
attending. I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good job, everybody. Thank you.